Hi guys, hi YouTubers, hi fellows.
Hello everyone. We will wait 1 more minute before we start. Okay, so welcome to today's webinar, the new Bitdefender EDR, everything you need to know. My name is Ana Diaconu. I am a marketing program manager at Bitdefender and will be your host today. And it is my pleasure to welcome my colleagues, Peter Craig and Bogdan Cârlescu, Senior Product Marketing Managers, and Răzvan Cobzaru, Senior Product Manager. They will discuss about the reasons why EDR is critical to your organization, then demonstrate an incident in EDR, and talk about enhancements in Gravity Zone. Before we start, a few housekeeping rules. Please note that you are muted as we are recording this webinar. We will provide access to the recording within the next couple of days after the session. And throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit your questions in the Q&A pane, as we will host a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And now, over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks everyone for joining this meeting. So the main reason behind this webinar is to launch our new Bitdefender EDR, which is launching today. And the purpose then for this webinar is to tell you everything you need to know about EDR. And today your presenters, as Anna said, are myself, Peter Craig, Bogdan and Razvan. And today we're going to cover what is EDR and why is it critical for your organization? What should you look for in an EDR solution? So I'm going to cover this piece, and then I'm going to hand over to Bogdan, who's going to talk about the Gravity Zone platform and product enhancements. Then we'll hand over to Razvan, who's going to take us through a demo, and then we'll finish off by answering any questions that you might have about anything that we're going to talk about today. So first of all, what is EDR and why is it critical? Well, the first thing to point out is that we've been doing antivirus for years. So Bitdefender's been around for almost 20 years. The antivirus industry's been around for over 30 years. And what anti-malware companies have always told our customers is that we can't guarantee 100% prevention. Now, prevention measures get better and better. We're always adding new capabilities into our products to help protect against the latest threats. And we've added in the last number of years next generation approaches like machine learning, like sandbox, like anti-ransomware. But it's still an arms race. And of course, the criminals, the attacker, they've got that element of surprise. And the problem is that they only need to get it right once, whereas you, as the organization that's being attacked, you have to defend yourself 100% of the time to stop any breach having an effect on your organization. So what happens if all of your prevention efforts fail? Well, if an attack has been successful and it's eluded all of your prevention mechanisms, it can go unnoticed for weeks or even months. And of course, the consequences of not discovering that breach can be serious. It can have long-lasting and it can have financial consequences to your business. And the best response to this security challenge is an endpoint detection and response tool. And that adds as a complement to your prevention mechanisms. Adding EDR to prevention mechanisms helps organizations respond effectively to all phases of a sophisticated attack. Now, what you can see on the slide here is an attack chain, and EDR is mainly concerned with what's to the right of the red dotted line on the attack chain that you can see on the slide. So what EDR does is it brings visibility, it brings insight on what is happening on your endpoint infrastructure, and it also enables your IT team, your security team, to respond quickly, accurately, directly to the cyber threat that is trying to infiltrate your organization. So a little bit more on this using a real life example. Now, you may already have seen Leview's presentation where he talked about APT as a service, which is basically rent an advanced persistent threat. And in this case, this APT was being used to target real estate agents to steal useful data that could allow a competing estate agent to gain an advantage over another. Now, there's a few things I want to mention here. The first is that this puts sophisticated, you might say, nation state level attacks in the hands of anyone that can pay for them. And of course, this means that this could be used against your organization. Now, even if you're a small organization, you could be the bait, you could be the sprat to catch a mackerel or the little fish to catch a bigger fish. So perhaps even if you're a small organization, you're going to have larger customers or larger organizations that you partner with, and you could be used as a way into that organization. And you've got to think, how would it affect your standing with that long-term customer if you're the one that allows a threat into your organization? But this is also a useful example that we can use to compare prevention with detection and response capabilities. And again, if you look at the slide, the gray circles on the left of the page, those are the preventative measures that Bitdefender uses to stop the attack in the early stage. And then on the right of the page, we've got the endpoint detection and response capabilities. So let's have a look at a couple of these measures. And the first one is anti-malware. And you can see that anti-malware is very effective. Here what it's done, it's detected and it's stopped the first payload. So if you've got the anti-malware signature in place, you've stopped this attack right at the beginning of the attack chain. Now, of course, so the first thing to point out is that anti-malware is still very effective, and it's still something that you should be using as your first line of defense against a cyber attack. However, with traditional anti-malware, this requires that someone else has already been infected with this payload so that the security vendor, like Bitdefender, can create a signature that's going to stop you from being infected with this attack. And of course, what sophisticated attackers will do is they'll quality test their malware to check that it's not going to be picked up by the anti-malware vendor that the target is using. So what the Bitdefender did to counter that is we developed some next generation technologies that are able to stop attacks that have never been seen before. And Process Inspector is an example of this. So this is a next generation technology that stops threats that have never been seen before at the point where they're being executed. Now, if we compare that to our EDR detections, so here we can see that EDR is detecting credential access and dumping attempt. So this is where somebody is using a tool to try and steal some administrator credentials, perhaps to move to another system within the organization. What it also does is trigger some MITRE alerts. And we'll talk a little bit more about MITRE later in the presentation. Then we've got some exfiltration attempt. And this is where the attacker is attempting to get that valuable information about that real estate deal out of the organization so it can supply it to the person that's paying for this attack, and they can get their commission on that real estate deal. Now, Bitdefender believe that a comprehensive approach is the best approach to endpoint security. And of course, we've got a fully featured EDR solution contained within Bitdefender Ultra that's been available for a number of years. And we think this is the best way to provide EDR, because rather than having multiple standalone security solutions stacked one on top of the other, organizations have the option to choose an integrated endpoint protection and EDR solution. And that's got lots of benefits to you because you've got a single interface, which means that the security team can stay focused on the real threats. You're buying all of this from a single vendor, which provides better operational efficiency and better return on your security investment. There's less chance of any misintegration, and it also reduces the know-how and resource requirements from your IT team, which is another EDR challenge. But of course, that doesn't meet the needs of all organizations. And some customers may want to buy a standalone solution. And some customers need that choice. And that's the reason we're launching the standalone Bitdefender EDR solution today. So what I've done here is I've copied a diagram in here from Gartner's EDR market guide. And you can see that the way they think the market is going is towards combined endpoint protection and EDR bundles. Now we're ahead of the game here because we've been successfully selling EPP and EDR bundles with Ultra for the last few years. Now you can see that they believe that by the end of 2023, 50% of enterprises will have moved to replace older AV with combined EPP and EDR bundles. But the end of 2023 is still over 3 years away. And even then, only 50% of enterprises will have moved to these combined bundles. So that's a considerable section of the market that up until today, we haven't been able to address. So that's one of the reasons why we're launching our standalone EDR product today. Now, with our new product, we can address this market, and you as a Bitdefender EDR customer can run Bitdefender EDR alongside Windows Defender and other vendors like Sophos, Symantec, McAfee. In fact, any third-party antivirus solution can be improved by running Bitdefender EDR alongside it. Now, Bitdefender is all about making things easier for you and reducing your operational burden. And some of the features of Bitdefender EDR is that it's cloud delivered and it's low maintenance. So you're not going to have to begin installing management servers on premises. It's easy to roll out and deploy. The agent is very lightweight. It's not going to use up many resources on your endpoints. As I said, it's fully compatible with any third-party AV, and it's flexible and upgradable. So at some point, if you want to include our managed detection and response capability or upgrade to the full Bitdefender endpoint protection, you can do so simply by changing your licensing. Why should you choose Bitdefender? Well, we've got some great resources available on the Bitdefender Business Insights blog. Bitdefender is the biggest EDR vendor you haven't considered but should have. This is what Forrester said earlier this year, and I'd recommend you have a little bit of a look at that paper. We've got complete MITRE attack coverage. Again, I'd recommend you have a look at Dragosh's blog so you can see how we are able to detect all of the tactics, techniques, and procedures that attackers are going to use against your organization. I'd also recommend having a look at Leview's blog on that threat that I mentioned earlier on, the advanced persistent threat as a service. So what should you be looking for in an EDR solution? Well, there are three main points that Forrester believe are critical for an EDR solution. So they think you should be able to empower your SOC analysts with incident-driven security analytics, provide a prescriptive remediation plan and the ability to orchestrate it, and facilitate advanced use cases for MITRE attack. It sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? So what they're really saying is they want an EDR solution to show you the threats on your network, to help you fix these, and then map them to the MITRE attack framework that I mentioned on the last slide. Now, perhaps with a bit of help from Bitdefender, it's not going to be quite so complicated. And Razvan's going to show you in a few minutes how we can do this. But at this point, I'm going to leave EDR and I'm going to hand over to Bogdan.
Thank you, Peter. Great insights on the new Bitdefender EDR. Now, besides the new product, this Q4 release also comes with valuable enhancements for the existing solutions and for the Gravity Zone platform itself. In the next couple of minutes, I will share with you the highlights around the platform improvements, plus what's new for all EDR products, risk analytics engine, and for the ransomware mitigation module. Now, if you are familiar if you're not familiar with Gravity Zone, this is the Bitdefender's platform and portfolio of solutions that is designed to protect businesses against the entire spectrum of cyber threats, from common threats to the most advanced ones. Now, over time, Gravity Zone evolved from a management console to a full-fledged security platform, and that comes with additional requirements from visualization and reporting perspective. We want to make Gravity Zone an effective instrument not only for the security practitioner, but also for CISOs. And any security decision maker needs to provide reports with certain recurrence regarding the status of security within the organization. And this is where the new executive dashboard comes into play. I don't want to spoil the demo, but I want to give you a hint about what I'm talking about. This new executive dashboard provides the key information consolidated in a graphical representation that is easy to understand. It covers two key areas: the detection with the actions that were taken by the technology stack on one side, and on the other side, the current inventory that is managed by the specific customer. This is a really cool and very effective instrument for a security decision maker. Razvan will show you more about this during the demo. The next enhancement is about integration. At Bitdefender, we believe in open standards and complementarity. So besides the dashboard, Gravity Zone also gets an enhanced SIEM connector. The SIEM solution gives enterprise security professionals insights into activities within the IT environment. To do that, the SIEM needs to ingest data from all the relevant elements in the environment. With the Q4 release, we are enhancing the integration with SIEMs by enabling the forwarding of raw and system events for the protected endpoints. What's the point of this enhancement? This new feature, which will be available both for cloud and on-premise deployments, lets security analysts search through raw endpoint data with the help of a SIEM. This complements the search capability that are already built in the EDR product. Now, speaking of EDR, besides the new EDR, there is another good news. All Bitdefender products that integrate EDR capabilities, starting with the Q4 release, will support custom EDR rules. And there are three products that will support this custom rules: the new Bitdefender EDR, Gravity Zone Ultra, and Gravity Zone Ultra Plus. This is a very important capability for the more sophisticated users. I will not enter the weeds of the custom rules, but in simple words, it allows the security analyst to configure the EDR engine to detect events specific for their environments. The use cases for this type of, let's say, flexibility include specific IT environment architecture, special software, some stricter regulations, and so on. But it's not limited to that. So there are quite a few use cases for this new capability. If you are already using Bitdefender, going to the next enhancement, you already know about the risk analytics engine. This risk analytics engine is a key component of Gravity Zone, as it helps the security organizations to have a better understanding of the security posture of the IT environment. It also enables them to take actions in order to reduce the risk exposure. This is a very important complement for the security controls that are built into the Bitdefender solutions. With this release, the risk analytics engine gets two important updates. The first one is related to the human risk analytics engine that was released in July and now becomes under full control of the security admins. If initially it was enabled by default, now we added a capability to activate and deactivate, depending on the security policy, the user risk analytics. This is very important for, let's say, customization. The second improvement of the risk analytics is related to industry awareness. This is a very valuable capability. As we know, the risk exposure depends on many things, and some industries have a stronger dependency on digital. Some are more exposed to cyber risks than others. Some industries have specific challenges, and that's why it's very important that the risk analytics engine is industry aware. This will make it more capable of providing an accurate risk footprint of the organization. And last enhancement that I'm covering today is about the ransomware mitigation module. As a quick reminder, this module is an additional protection layer against ransomware attacks. I want to mention that this is not the only protection layer against ransomware that is included with Gravity Zone, but it is a particular, let's say, it will help in particular use cases, especially when dealing with uncertainty. When the other protection layers cannot decide if a suspicious process is ransomware, this module will create real-time copies of all the files to be modified. If the suspicious process proves to be a ransomware, the encrypted files are restored from backup. And this entire process is fully automated and entirely transparent for the user. In July, when we announced this module, we made it available only for the on-premises deployments. Now we're making it available also for the cloud deployments. And that means all Bitdefender customers will enjoy this additional dedicated layer that can mitigate the effects of advanced ransomware attacks. So, what are the takeaways from this last few minutes? Gravity Zone gets better on executive reporting with the new dashboard. It gets an enhanced integration capability with the richer SIM connector. Third, all EDR products get custom detection rules, and that makes the solution more flexible. And fourth, the risk analytics becomes better on industry reporting in order to provide, let's say, a better risk information. The last enhancement, the ransomware mitigation module becomes included with all our products. If you have questions related to any of this enhancement, please drop them in the question widgets. Rizvan, the floor is yours for the demo.
Thank you, Bogdan. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our session. For today, I'm gonna do a brief product demo showing you how we can investigate an incident using our Bitdefender EDR. So for this to happen, let's suppose I'm playing a security analyst role, which I've been alerted from a notification that I have a new incident that was happening in my company, and or I'm a security analyst that can go directly to the console, looking day by day and trying to do some triaging along the incidents that get generated day by day. If I get to the console, into the triage section, I would first, in order to understand which are the most important and to prioritize my work or my investigation, I can leverage several controls or several pieces of information that are available in the triaging to pinpoint, let's say, the most important incident that I firstly look into. For example, I could use the confidence score. As it's higher, then it's more probable to be an attack there. I could use the information about the attack types. So this one is specifying what kind of, let's say, techniques or types of common attack types were seen in that incident. I'm particularly interested in something, I don't know, it's, for example, a ransomware or a lateral movement. I could have that information here and I could filter by that. Or just by numbers. I could use the highest numbers of alerts. Probably it's something that it's most important because there are, it is the highest numbers of detections that took part of that incident. Furthermore, there is a quick view panel that I could use in order to quickly understand what happens inside that incident without going to each one. So I don't need to go into to investigate which one to understand which are the information that I'm looking for. I can just use that quick panel and understand quickly what was the trigger, the detection for this particular incident, why it was considered like that, and very important, which were the MITRE attack techniques and categories that were seen as part of this incident. This has quite a lot, as this one, it has a lot of artifacts involved, a lot of detection, so this is probably there were a large number of techniques used. So let's analyze this particular incident and see. Starting the investigation, the product will recommend the critical path that me as an analyst I should follow. What is this critical path? It's the direct connection or events that happen between the source of the incident, what we call the origin of the incident, and the trigger. The trigger being the one that raised the suspicion for the incident to be for the flag to be raised. Okay, something that it's happening here. So the path from the origin to the trigger, it's what we call trigger critical path, and that is most probably how the attack evolved. But there are other items that were involved as well. So during an investigation throughout the incident, I will be able to see there are multiple other elements that could help me to understand what happened and the amount of, let's say, not necessarily destruction, but the amount of damage or the harmful actions that were taking place during this attack. Now, to look into all those elements, I would just zoom in the graph, so I'll have all those information right into my eyes and start investigating. One more thing I would do before starting investigating, I would choose to isolate the host. Why? Because maybe this attack, it's still happening, it's still ongoing on that machine. So I wouldn't want to spread to other machines or even on that machine to take additional malicious actions. So probably one of my first actions would be here to isolate the host in order to stop any connection inbound or outbound from that machine. There are other options, other actions I could take available, like installing patches or doing a remote connection. So that's opening a shell on that machine. But those could be actions that I will take after I will understand exactly what happened in the incident, and if I need to take other action of response, or I need to, in case of the remote connection, to go and further analyze the situation on that machine. So let's start our investigation. the investigation will start with the first process that it's considered the origin for this attack, and in our case it's outlook.exe. That means most probably it was an email. I see that it was a document that was written and read and open with WinWord. So this document, it was the first one, let's say, in this chain that was, we had the first detection that there was an exploit inside the document, an exploit with a known CVE that probably tried to exploit an Office application to do something. Let's see what they tried to do. So they opened WinWord with this document. The exploit was run. Therefore, Rex Severe 32 and the PowerShell were opened by the WinWord. That means usually an attack, because usually in a normal situation, an Office application shouldn't open a PowerShell or manipulate the registry, and we will see how. So that's from the start thing like suspicious. Let's see what the product saw about that. So we had multiple detections on this PowerShell, and we can see, for example, my suspicion initially for that document confirmed. So there is an Office exploit attack that happened here. There was, for example, important a PowerShell. This PowerShell tried to make a GET request from a remote HTTP server. So that means the PowerShell tried to download something from an external URL, and that PowerShell gained persistence by creating some registry keys. What does it mean creating persistence? Means the attacker is trying to be sure that every time the system will start up, their malicious scripts or payloads will get run automatically. So that means persistence into the system. So they will gain a foothold into the system to do their let's say malicious intentions right there. So these were the detections, and if I'm looking into what happened in the attack, indeed all those actions happen. So there is a download from this URL. There was written a file. Of course, there was the connection initially to this URL, and several files were downloaded. So this means the download was successful, and even further, we have a detection on it. We can see the payload that was downloaded. It's considered a Metasploit. This is a well-known framework used by attackers. Again, from the persistence perspective, there is the incident also collected the information from the registry. We can see that registry key was added to the registry for the persistence purposes. So it was written in a specific part of the registry where when something is there, then anything gets run automatically. So till now, the attacker downloaded the files, run some commands to create persistence, and let's see what they did afterwards. So I'm looking here. I see something suspicious. Yes, there is a suspicious process elevation execution. So basically, what happened? This payload that they executed tried to gain more rights than the user that they were running to. So if all this happened under a user that was somehow limited by the system, from this moment they elevated, and everything that they're going to run, they were going to run with administrative privileges. So once they did that, now they can run again their part of the payload with elevated rights. That means now they had control on that system, and they can do several actions with more freedom than they had before. For example, this being a Metasploit, that means they connected to an outside server, and they created a reverse interpreter console. That means they created a connection to a command and control server from there, allowing someone, an attacker, through that server to send commands to this machine and to trigger further action. Furthermore, in this one, We also have an alert by the EDR that they used the mimikatz to pass the hash, the Kerberos. That means there was a potential credential dump, so they stole the credential in their hash form from the memory and use that to pass it to the connection to allow and to impersonate themselves. So that I think concluded the first phase of the incident. So it seems here in the first phase they gained persistence, they elevated the process, they created a connection to the outside, so an attacker can do more actions on the machine. What happened in phase 2? We can see there were run several tools, operating system tools that usually are run to get more information from the system, like who am I, interrogating the users and the rights, IP config about the IPs and the network configuration for the system info, and so on. So we can say safely, seeing these commands that were run, that the attacker was trying to find out more about that system. So which are the users that are set on that system, the configuration of the system in terms of the network configuration, the other configuration that you can see. So we can safely say this was a data discovery, let's say, of the system. So he was preparing for more information. This is usually things that the attacker are doing in terms of they are trying to see what kind of information they can use to expand their breach, let's say, either on that machine or either on the other machines on the network. With that information, they start the phase 3, where there is a PowerShell that was written in a user directory. That's suspicious as well, because this is usually it's used by attackers to evade defenses and observation. So there is a PowerShell, doesn't look very let's say legit to me. So I'm looking at what we detected when they run that PowerShell. So the script, the PowerShell ran with that script, and so there are funny things that happen here. I think the most interesting one would be finally that there is a detection talking about the PowerShell document exfiltration. So using that PowerShell and that script, they've been able to do some data exfiltration. So it seems in the end their purpose or their reason for this machine or for this particular attack was to steal some data. Now, for each of these elements, if I would want to go and drill down furthermore, find more details about each of these processes, files, URLs involved into the attack. I could also take into look into more detailed information, like for the process info, I can see detailed command line. If it was digitally signed, if it was the case, I would see the digital signature and all the information, hashes and all the information like that. So this is available for any of the item that was involved in this incident. To take actions on it, if I have a suspicion about a certain process, I could just kill it. That will stop that process if it's still running. I could quarantine the file. So I want to put that file in a safe storage, not to be able for anyone to run it again. To add to a block list, that means if I'm adding a file to the block list, any other attack that tries to use the same file on any other machine into the network will be blocked automatically. Or the other way around, and this is important, add this file, or very important, even the behavior as an exclusion. So if I'm looking into an attack and if it's not something that I consider is malicious, usually there are scripts of PowerShell there that are not malicious, but due to their, let's say, complexity of the organization itself and their complexity of the scripts, sometimes they get tagged as a malicious intent. Then I'm able to filter my and customize my EDR experience with adding EDR exclusions or directly the file to the exclusions. And that means there will be no more alerts or incidents generated into the future from the same behavior. and from the same file. The same thing, like doing those exclusions, it's by the other way around again, by defining a custom detection. And Bogdan mentioned a little bit about this. If we are introducing the possibility to create a detection rule in all of our EDR flavors, this means the user will be able to customize again his EDR experience in and the solution to detect things that he finds out from different sources, for example, from a threat intel, from some news security feeds, or from his known, let's say, own experience in terms of security. He can define his own rules. By defining those, that means he can create a complex, let's say, not necessarily sentence, but a complex scenario in which the product will create a detection. So, for example, I can specify for a process the name, path, command line, parent. What would be that one if it contains, for example, so let's take an example. I can say if the name contains win word, for example, that means, sorry for the autocorrect, that's one condition, and my rule can expand more. So if, for example, the word name contains word, if the parent, or I think the better example would be the other way around, if the name contains PowerShell and the parent name would be word, then it will be exactly the detection that I had today into the incident, where PowerShell was opened by WinWord. We did that detection automatically, but this is the kind of rules you can set, and you can add as many as conditions that you have, and you can choose from multiple types of elements. So talking about registries, so you can define values, paths, parents values, and so on. And talking about connections, of course, the destination, the source IP, the port, the protocol, and so on. So this is the feature that will allow a power user, a security analyst, to define its own customized detections for the EDR. With that, I conclude my product demo for today. Thank you for the attending, and let's see if we have some questions.
We do have some questions. Let me read through some of them at the beginning, and maybe Razvan, you can take some others later. So one question which is related to the slides. Yes, you will get the slides, and you will also get an email confirmation that you can use for getting CPEs for your certifications if you want to do that. There is an interesting question related to custom rules, and the question is if the SOC analysts have to know and understand SQL. It's interesting. I think you just saw the user interface for that, and it's made to be let's say easy to use. So the security analyst don't have to be, let's say, SQL experts, so they can use the custom rules. Let me go for another question. What is Gravity Zone Ultra and Gravity Zone Ultra Plus? These are the top integrated endpoint protection and EDR solutions from Bitdefender. Ultra Plus also includes the network view, which makes it an XDR solution. If you want to know more about this too, you can go to our website, and you will easily find them with much more details about these products. All right. If the new components will be added free of charge or in the actual offer, of course, the new EDR is a new product, but the other enhancements that I mentioned, those will be added in the product as we develop further, not for a price. Going further, and this is a question that maybe Peter you can take. From an admin point of view, if we use EDR alongside EPP, Are we talking about one combined installation, or a new or a combined update, or we talk about two installations?
So I'm assuming that the question is about our Ultra product rather than about standalone EDR. And in that case, it is a combined agent. So it's a single installation that will provide both of those features.
Yeah, and I think the great thing is that even if you start from EPP or from EDR, you upgrade to let's say the integrated EPP EDR platform with one single update. So you never have to install installations if you are using the EPP and EDR products from Bitdefender, and that make it much more easily to work with. Another question. This I think is for Svan. When you say isolate the host, this is related to EDR, and take it out from the network, are you saying it's just post on the network, or it's and it can be easily re-added?
Yes, that is true. So isolating the machine means to refusing any kind of connections going outside or to that machine from outside. But that is completely reversible. So at the moment you do the isolation, at any point using our console, you can just click the same button. It will change the text there, and you will be able to de-isolate the machine in any second.
Okay, thank you, Razvan. There is a question about the product. I'm not sure exactly which one. I assume EDR. If this product is tenable, I assume this is related to, let's say, an MSP type of use case. We do have MSP specific solutions. So yes, you can use Bitdefender in an MSP like scenario. Razvan, can you get some of the questions?
Yes, of course. I see two questions related to the incidents, especially the one that I've seen today. So there is one question saying that the ERP incident, or this particular incident, seemed to show a lot of let's say harmful actions. Yeah, it is true. Of course, we could have stopped them a lot earlier. So there are other modules that could step in there. It's just that for the purpose of the demo, I've disabled some of the preventive controls in order to let the attack happen. But the attack it can be stopped several stages earlier, even without our intervention, so in an automatic way. Another question is, the EDR is used for enhanced detection and EPP used for scanning, or does EDR have scanning capabilities? So EDR, it's doing two things. One would be detections. Yeah, EDR is doing detection by itself. So it has its own correlation engine that it works by monitoring operating system events. And based on those events, we have our internal engines that are doing correlations, and we are trying to surface suspicious activities using those events. So these are completely separate from the ones from the detections coming from the prevention. But the second use case for the EDR is to use the power of those events and that monitoring to create a root cause analysis and an additional visibility to what happened in a certain attack, even if the prevention was involved. So even if the prevention blocks something or detections something, we can still show the whole picture and create that root cause analysis of what happened. So in fact, it's both. It's also doing some scanning and detection, but it's also bringing additional visibility to the prevention layer. Another question, was this demo done on a standalone EDR or integrated EPP EDR? I've used for this demo an integrated EPP EDR, but it's for the standalone EDR, it's absolutely the same interface, the same options that are available. It's just a matter of sensors. So EDR, it's a sensors technology. EDR will detect and will be able to tell more comprehensive story if it has more sensors. So if we have only the correlation, we will tell the story about those correlations. If we have also detections, we have the other prevention modules as sensors, then our story will be probably more complex and more comprehensive. But either way, it has the same capabilities, the response actions, level of details, and so on. What about data? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, and there was one more. What about data retention in this solution? What are the difference with Ultra Security? This is the we are using the same retention policy as the in Ultra, so the standalone and the Ultra are in fact based on the same EDR solution. So we need to keep in mind here we have the same EDR capability. It's just that we added now the full flexibility of running side by side with the prevention modules or run it as a standalone. But in terms of data retention, we have the same policy as the across our EDR products.
Yeah, I'm amazed by the number of questions. We have quite a few. We cannot get all of them, and some are very specific. So we'll take them offline. But I think we can take one or two more questions. Let me get one more. I think this is particularly interesting. If Bitdefender successfully found any 0 days exploits, Bitdefender is very active from this perspective, and I suggest you to connect with our labs blog. We can add this in the confirmation email, so you can easily find it. You will find there a lot of data about all kind of attacks, many of them 0 days that our labs are constantly investigating. Another question related to Ultra and Ultra Plus. If there is an option for MSP to have these products, yes, but not under this name. On the MSP side, you have the option to use the same technology, so basically EDR, but it's not named Gravity Zone Ultra. But that doesn't mean it is lacking capabilities. It's just, let's say, a different packaging that is suitable for the MSP use cases. And the last question that I'm going to take now is related to a customer that is using Gravity Zone. And we are asking if they can get EDR. Independent of the current implementation that you have, you can upgrade to let's say a solution that also contains EDR. So if you are using Bitdefender for endpoint protection, the next step is to go for the integrated endpoint protection and EDR solution. So in this case, Gravity Zone Ultra. So for you, it doesn't make sense to have the standalone EDR as if you already have the EPP from Bitdefender. You will have, let's say, more benefits by using an integrated solution. I think that's it for today. We'll get all the questions and provide the answers offline. Anna, back to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Razvan. Thank you, Bogdan. Thank you, Peter. And before closing, I would like to invite our audience also to check the new EDR webpage. And you can choose there to have a free trial of the product. And we will also follow up with all the materials, the recording, the presentation in the upcoming days. And thank you for taking the time to join us today. We look forward in seeing you in our upcoming webinars. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
If you need to contact us for further information, you can reach us on the website that's going to be in the description. You can also contact us on our live chat service. You can contact us on the YouTube comments. We'd be more than happy to assist you. You can reach us at acs@cyberservices.com, and the contact numbers are +44 for international dial, and that would be 1704 893 447. You can also reach me on my mobile at 07494 027783. If you need to contact us on any further information about webinars or demos, please let us know, and I and one of the team would be very happy to assist you. Thank you. But please note that when you are coming to us with regard to an educational request, please also send in some form of identification, or if you are a member of staff, say the IT administrator, please send in a letter from the head teacher with a manual signature so that we can apply an educational discount. But please be aware that you may have to buy so many licenses in order to get a discount. Thank you and bye bye.